So I am really excited to be able to welcome you to the Animal Ascension Panel. This panel, I think, speaks from the perspective of our beloved animals on the planet, all those sentient beings who really need a voice. And I feel really honored to present this panel. And so I want to introduce you to Lori Spagna. Okay, I'm her Facebook friend. I love her. She is a best-selling visionary, intuitive, animal communicator and healer. Okay, she leads powerful manifestations and healing circles. She assists other light workers to tap into their abilities via the universal source. And she also teaches about what animals are here to teach us humans and DNA activation so we can be in tune. So I want everyone to welcome Lori.
Hi, guys. Well, first of all, thanks so much for being here. I love doing these panels. This is like my 4th year of doing them. We get a lot out of it, and we really do our best to give you content-rich information while you're here. So I hope you'll all really benefit and receive what you came here to receive. So what we're going to do, just to set you up for some success so that you know the flow of the panel, we're going to each one of us take approximately 10 to 15 minutes to share some information that will really help and benefit each of you, we hope, about animals, the animal-human connection, animal telepathy, animal communication, and especially also animals in ascension and the role that animals are playing in the awakening of planet Earth, and also animal whole health and healing. So that's a lot of topics, but each one of us specializes in different unique areas, so we'll be contributing along those subject lines. And we have some really amazing guest speakers here. So I'm going to introduce each one of them. They'll each speak for approximately 10 to 15 minutes. You'll have a little bit shorter time with some of the ones on the end just because we added them later. We want to make sure we really get everything in. And then we'll do some really great time for Q&A. And when we get to the Q&A, you'll have a microphone. Someone will hand you a microphone. You'll just raise your hand and then just say your name and the person you're asking your question to. But I'll let you know about that when we get to that part, okay? So the first person we're going to start with is Dr. Richard Palmquist, the most fantastic vet, one of the most fantastic East-West vets. I'm going to read his bio so I can introduce you properly to him, and then he'll get started. Dr. Richard Palmquist, veterinarian, is Chief of Integrative Health Services at Centinela Animal Hospital in Inglewood, California. He's president of the AHVM, which is the American Holistic Veterinary. I was going to say homeopathic. He's already making fun of me. He always makes fun of me. The American Holistic Veterinary Association and Foundation, and he's interested in holistic education and research. He's also my dog's personal vet as well. I totally love him. Dr. Richard Palmquist. Okay? The floor is yours. You're at green.
No, I'm green.
You're at green. Okay, I'll give you green when you get to the podium.
Complete. All right. Can you guys hear me? Is this good? All right. So, I want to talk to you about animal communication. And because I am a veterinarian, that's my view, right? So, I don't think anybody in this room has the... Stacy, hi. I don't think anybody in this room has the soul rights and privileges to know all things in the universe. So, realize when I talk, you're just getting my present place in my journey on this stuff. So if someone says something that seems in conflict, well, we can talk about that, because the way we advance our understanding, the way we ascend, is actually through dialogue. You know, it's a circle, and it isn't about debate. And anybody who wants to get into debate over animal communication probably isn't communicating much in the first place. So that's how I have to say about that. So I'm a veterinarian. This is just a little bit about me. I was born in Greeley, Colorado. I graduated from Colorado State University. I got a bunch of awards and accolades. None of that matters at all, because when it comes to animal communication, not one dog ever asks for what letters are behind your name. They want to know what your crotch smells like, and that's very important data to them. So that I got a lot of letters doesn't mean anything. But I do have a big practice in Inglewood. We treat about 16,500 patients a year there, and we use a mixture of modalities. And I graduated as a really strict scientist with a rather eclectic set of life experiences and interests in spiritual stuff. And my practice changed me, and the animals changed me. Not so much the people, but the animals. And my affection for them and my desire to be able to help them when I went to the book and there wasn't anything there. And so I actually didn't enter smoothly into this view. I had a patient that I really loved that moved to New York, and her owner was a very believing person. And when I found out that she'd gotten tied up with a quack holistic veterinarian who was treating her cancer with vitamins and herbs, I flew to New York to get his license revoked. And fortunately, I failed in my mission. But the real reason I went to New York was to find out what he was about and what he was doing. And what I saw when I was there was like nothing that was in any words or book that I had studied when I was in veterinary school. It changed me to the core. And also, what changed me was his relationship with me, because when I told him that I came to destroy him, he didn't even flinch. He just leaned forward and smiled with a little glint in his eye and said, "Well, you've been here for a week. What do you think now?" And I said, "Well, I think you should get the New York or the Nobel Prize." And he said, "Well, so what's your problem?" So he taught me something about forgiveness and about finding real truth. And I talk about that a lot because to me that was my entry point to really practicing medicine. It wasn't about knowing anatomy and getting A's and being able to solve cases that other people couldn't solve or answer questions that other people didn't know the answer to. It was actually being able to figure out what to do and when to do it. So that's how I got to where I am. And because I failed so miserably to destroy holistic medicine, they made me president of the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Foundation. And then took a guy who doesn't have any interest in money and asked me to collect $20 million for research. And I choked a little at the time and ended up taking the job. So that's basically, in a nutshell, my journey. And these are two of my dogs. Bosco's the chocolate lab, so creatively named. And Russell is the little midget that's flying through the side there. So anyway, this is what I know about communication, right? If you're alive, you communicate. And that's what I know. Thank you very much. So we want to talk about some quality of communication here, right? And so if we start talking about life, where we have these libraries that are full of books that don't explain everything that we're looking for still, life takes energy, water, and minerals, and it arranges in forms that change and exchange things, right? They make new things, and they evolve to higher and higher complexities, and communication is the key to success. It doesn't matter if you're a bus driver or a cell in your big toe or a tiny little protozoal parasite in someone's intestine giving them diarrhea. You're still communicating, right? And so the key to our success is really learning about communication. And animal communication is just one part of that. It's not another thing. And when we talk about communication, we have to talk about viewpoint, intention, perception, duplication, understanding. And those are the components that make up communication. And we can impact ourselves by working on each one of those little areas, right? And, we're always, in science, we're always talking about analysis. I don't know how many of you guys know what that word means, right? But the word lysis means to break apart, right? And anal, that's not right? No. When we get anal about science, we start breaking things apart and looking at their parts, but we have to remember that an anus goes with the mouth, right? You have to have both ends of the digestive system to be able to transform things. And that's true when we talk about communication too. We're not just talking about intention. And you can have the best intention in the world, but if you actually have no perception, then your communication is going to suffer because you're not seeing what's happening at the receipt point. So there are some keys to communication, right? We have these channels and energy. Things go across lines right now. We're using sound in this room, we're using light in this room, and some people are using channels above that, right, to communicate. And we can tap into that and perceive it. So most of us would automatically agree that we have these perceptions, taste, sight, sound. We agree on those. When we start talking about these other channels, advanced perceptions, these are things that some people have more of and other people have less of, but we all have some of. And if we awaken the possibility that it exists, then we can use those channels and make them work better. And really, a lot of what we're talking about is that. And somewhere involved in that whole process of communication, we have this thing that the minute we name it, people start chopping each other's heads off over who is really right about the name and miss what it is. So I like innate intelligence. I think spirit works, but spirit gets corrupted into energy. And then when we start talking about spirit and energy, then people start getting all confused. And so I like to call it innate intelligence. That's the thing that knows it knows, right? That maybe no thing, the most important thing in the universe, which is a no thing, right? But it knows it knows. And then lastly, basically, I like to talk about that in terms of I am. You know, that's the existential part of this whole equation. I am, we are, and we are in this thing together. And life is this big circle that has all this potential that's migrating around. So when we communicate, we're just connecting. However we do that is how we connect. So I did a survey of holistic veterinarians before the conference today to find out about animal communication. And it's quite interesting. When you raise this subject, it's very common for people to attack you pretty viciously. And that was the case. And I'm used to that, so it wasn't a problem for me. But it's interesting, in public, people attack animal communicators. But in private, they have stories, right? So it was interesting because on this very secure list where all these holistic doctors meet and greet and talk about how to solve difficult cases, when I asked this question, 2 people answered that that was unscientific and it was unridiculous and we shouldn't do this, and veterinary medicine was not about that, and this list was for healing, and don't bring up communication, to which I responded, well, the National Institute of Health says prayer is alternative medicine. And so if prayer isn't communication, I don't know what it is, and I think it's communication when we see our patients and do those things. And so I still got yelled at, but I got the last word. So anyways, I think that all this stuff comes down to love and truth. And again, love and truth are real things to me. They're commodities. They are the fundamental building blocks of everything that we see and conceive of. And when we talk about love and truth, I'm not talking about words in a dictionary. I'm actually talking about love and truth. And why I love animals is because it's very easy. Because they don't screw around with words, right? You know, a boxer is a boxer is a boxer. It doesn't matter what you call them, you know. So love and truth drive truth-centered people, which I believe spirits are. I believe the thing that is aware is this self-generating issue. So let's talk a little bit about dinner with the dead. Things are not always what they seem. I went to a Southern California Veterinary Medical Association. This is the conventional meeting, right? So about 500 conventional veterinarians all sitting around tables having dinner. And I walked up to a table and saw a large number of people, none of which I knew, right? So my wife and I, she's a veterinarian, also sat down together. And my wife said, I think we know that person across the table. And I said, who do you think he is? And she gave me his name, and I said, it couldn't be him because he's dead. And she said, are you sure? And I said, not really. But I heard he was dead, right? She said, what did he die of? I said, maybe I heard wrong. So we did a really amazing thing. My wife looked across the table and said, hi, what's your name? He said, hi, I'm... And I said, I thought you were dead. And everybody at the table started laughing. We all started talking. We ended up talking about animal communication, the one subject I knew would never rise in this conventional thing. And when everybody felt safe, the stories started to roll. And I'm not going to tell stories about communication because everybody's got them, and they're going to tell you, and that's not the ticket. The ticket is communication is the key, right? And unless we do it, you can talk about communication all day long, but if you're not doing it, you're not doing it. So, and by the way, that spider... Does anyone have anything to say about that spider? You're the only group I've ever shown that slide to who didn't go, right? First of all, it's dead. Yeah, you know, we found it when I was in Arizona. I was sitting next to the dock on the back of my brother's house, and I said, I'm going to take a picture. Just to use for various and sundry sick and twisted ways, right? And so I did not communicate with this spider in great Zen condition, right? It was dead. But even when I put it on my face like that dead, it took me a while to smile. Okay, so I did get some advice from the dead one. So I had a cat that had a really bad skin condition, and it had been to a lot of specialists. And I realize that veterinarians only tell us stories where they solve the case, so I have stories that don't end with happy endings. But this is a weird one for me because we worked with this cat with homeopathy, and it responded really brilliantly right from the beginning. And as soon as it resolved, it died. And I felt very depressed about that. And the owner came back to me, and I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "Oh, yeah, I'm fine." And I'm like, what the how are you fine and I'm so ripped up here? I've been working all this time. I got the cat looking terrific and it freaking dies. And she said, you know, I knew it would die. She said, this cat and I have been on a long journey, a very long journey that encompasses more than one lifetime. And I knew when she came back to me that we were finishing what we started, and I knew that when we finished that, she would go. And she said, I never told you that because I knew you wouldn't fix her. And I felt used. But later, and you can tell when this happened because she brought me a cassette tape later from an animal communicator who sent me a message. How much time do I have, Lori? 2 minutes? Okay. And this cat told me, she said, you know, I have to tell you something that no one else has ever told you. And I was like, okay. And she told me something that I didn't know the answer to, right, until she told me. And she said, you think all the time. You never stop thinking. You always are thinking. You're always worrying that you're not going to be good enough. You're not going to be able to solve the problem. You're not going to do the right thing. You're going to let the people down. You're going to let us down. Shut up. Right? Shut up. She said, you need to know that when you touch us, that's when healing begins. And if I can't leave you with anything other than that today, and considering the possibility for this stuff, and the fact that truth and love are the center, and if you find truth and love first, and you touch someone, I don't care what they are, you touch them with truth and love in your heart, the possibility of change occurs. And transformation comes from that, not just on what you touch, but on you as well. So don't think, touch us, and let that truth and love in your heart guide the process. So this is the eye of a whale. Things we don't get to see very often. And pretty wise. So are there rules to animal communication? These are golden rules, you see? Symbology. Okay. So first, look for people with good reputations. Don't trust people. Work with people who've earned trust. That's what a reputation is about. Always consider the source and the data. Communicators give people wrong information. Sometimes we misunderstand what the person's saying, right? And just like all communication, it can get garbled. When it's true, it leads to a solution. When it's false, it leads to a fist fight. Okay? So does it fit? Look at this in the basis always from starting this love and truth-based relationship, because the relationship is the treasure that we seek. It's not the other stuff. Okay? And then use your veterinarian skills and do tests. We have all the time people whose animals come to us that someone has been told by a communicator, no one on this panel, that their dog has a tumor and they don't have a tumor. Or they've told them they're fine and not to do x-rays because they don't have a tumor, and they do. And that makes veterinarians really upset when the dog dies. Do tests so that we can see what's there, right? And if it doesn't make sense or it won't expand understanding, the data may be incorrect. Okay? So, and then the last rule is, when all is sacred, there aren't any rules. Okay? Don't look for a straight line, because that's usually not the solution. And that's all I have to say, except for the last word, smile.
Thanks, Dr. Palmquist. So when I'm over here, I have to call you Richard. Thanks, Richard. When I go to his office, it's always Dr. Palmquist. Did you guys? He's so funny. He always makes me laugh. So that was really awesome. I love that he was talking about how when he goes to veterinary, works with other veterinaries, they all poo-poo it and say it's not real. And yet the funny thing is they're scientists. And actually animal communication is scientifically real and valid. And if a scientist is actually saying, or a doctor, is saying that it's not, it's because they don't have the facts. It's scientifically real and valid, and I have dedicated a huge part of my professional career to proving that and demonstrating that, because I got so tired of people telling me I was crazy. So if you're interested in knowing the scientifically real and valid facts, you can definitely learn a lot more about that by learning more about how animal communication works. But right now we're going to introduce you to the next speaker, Lai. So I'm going to read her bio for you. Lai Ubberud. I know Lai, but I only ever refer to her as Lai. It's funny. Comes from a long... She comes from a long line of European psychics. She's the winner of the award for the Best Psychic of 2005 and the Best Pet Psychic of 2007. And she's that was from the Houston Press. She is a medium, psychic, animal communicator, and the author of Celebrity Pets Tell All. So welcome, Lai. You're at green.
I'm at green now?
Yeah, you're at green. Go.
I'm sorry not to stand up, but otherwise you can't see me. I'm too short to stand behind the podium. Okay, my name is Lai, and like the doctor here, I never had those problems. I never had to fly to New York. I knew since I was little that I could hear animals, I could talk to them, and I was extremely surprised when I found out that other people couldn't listen or hear animals, you know. But thank God my grandmother understood me and just said, you have to tell them what that dog, cat, whatever it was, you know, said. So that was pretty cool. And all the kids loved that I could tell them whatever their bunnies or dogs or so thought about them, you know. Not when they were being naughty or doing something behind their mother's back, you know. They didn't find that any funny. I grew up with animals all my life, you know, and I still love animals, both alive and dead. And it's true, you know, we communicate with them, and people get very surprised, you know, when I tell them. The other day I was in Canada, and I saw this beautiful white dog, and I said, oh, hello, whatever the name was, I can't remember. And I looked at the owner, and I said, oh, is he 3.5 years old? And he looked at me and asked, how do you know his name, and how do you know that he's 3.5 years old? I said, oh, he told me. And the man stood there staring at me, and I walked into the elevator and disappeared. And I do that a lot, you know. And if we listen, I'm sure that all of you that have animals, you say, oh, I think he's hungry, or he doesn't feel well, or whatever, you know. And it's pretty easy to listen to them if they want to talk. Sometimes they are like people, and they don't want to tell us anything, either because they are in a bad mood, they did something silly, or they just don't feel like talking, you know. One thing in that I had a dog, a big Bernese mountain dog that I brought from Switzerland. That cost me more to bring the dog than to put 2 kids on a plane. Trust me, he was big. We got him from the local SPCA, and he had a big cut here on his throat. And we talked, my kids are all psychic, and they all can talk to animals and all that. And we tried to figure out what happened to him. And he couldn't remember. He could not remember. He suffered from amnesia. But with time, you know, he started, and lots of loving care and all that, and big bills to the vet. He started remembering and telling us what happened. And I don't know if you've ever been to Switzerland, but there are 4 languages. And if we spoke to him in French or English, it was fine. He couldn't speak a word of English when we first got him, just French and German. But if we spoke German to him, the poor dog would go completely crazy and hide, you know. So eventually we got the whole story out, you know, and it was pretty sad. He had been abandoned by a couple in the forest, and instead of leaving him loose so he could find a way, they tied him up with a rope, you know. Well, he's fine, you know. He lived until he was 16, and the vet could not believe that a Bernese mountain dog went past 11 to 12 years. That's already very old. He was the happiest dog. And, of course, he had friends, all our other dogs. Funnily enough, he wasn't a watchdog. You know, the watchdog was the little Nanucci that was only like 25 pounds or 28 pounds, you know. And they were best friends, you know. It was so funny the way she bossed him around, you know. She was the bossy person. And we had all kinds. We had turtles, we have everything, you know. But it's very interesting. I agree with the doctor when we go and tell, if you are honest and integrity, when I do a medical scan on a pet, I always say, please take the pet to the vet, because it has to be proven scientifically. You know, because you might miss something, or you feel sorry and you don't want to see it, or something, you know. So I do it. I always make sure they do. And the other thing is, I'm very lucky. I never had people questioning me about the animals or so. And when I take my dog to the vet, and of course, you know, they have the wellness test, because my dog is 18 years old, you know. Oh, and she's fine. She jumps up and down the stairs and eats everything, and she's as sneaky as she can be. You know, actually, she ate a whole bar of chocolate, and you know, oh no, she's fine. She didn't even throw up. I called the vet in hysterics, but no, she's fine. Another time, she drank wine, and she got drunk, because somebody left an open bottle of wine on the floor, so she drank it. But when they tell you, and I tell the vet, you know, you don't need to give her a wellness test, because I can see what's wrong with her. And it's true, every time there is something with her, I immediately take her to the vet, and then they check her. So far, she's been as healthy as she can be, and I hope she stays there until she's at least 25. I don't know, you know, we'll see. The other one, you know, is that sometimes the pets don't like the food you're giving them. And if you can tell the owner, could you please change their food because it makes them nauseous or whatever, you know, it hurts them. Another one is very often they have kidney problems, you know. So if you can give them a proper diet and just take them to a vet that, you know, to follow them, I think that's very, very important, you know. And the other one that I find is that animals are very healing. Like people that are sick, and sometimes, you know, you take them and they make the people feel better. I also meet dogs that they just there to, you know, like service dogs. They are there to help blind people or people that had accidents and cannot work. And I think that's a great thing, you know. Communicating, how do you do that? Sometimes they talk to you directly. Other times they just show you images. And I don't know about the other people here, but when I hear something, I have to repeat it. And sometimes I get a bit nervous about it afterwards. Like I had for a cat, he came with his owner. It was a very smart cat. They were from Louisiana. And he gave me the number of the street, and he gave me the name of the street after Katrina. They moved to Houston. I'm from Houston. And the owners could not remember what he was talking about. And then that's, oh my God, that was the address on our street, and the house wasn't there anymore, unfortunately. But that cat was a big liar to start with. And then he got me in trouble because he looks at me and he says, I don't like him to kiss me because he needs to go to the dentist. So I told the man, I mean, this is like a 6'2" man, you know. So I told him, it's not me talking, you know, it's your cat that's telling me. You need to go to the dentist. You know? And he said, oh, it's true, I just made an appointment. I said, I really... So that was when. I have another story, you know, and that's how intelligent animals are. This old lady, she's like 95, 96 by now. She was like 92 at the time. And she had like 6 kids, you know. And she comes with, every time I'm in, where am I? In Chicago. She's from Chicago. When I'm in Chicago, she always comes with, one of the sons always brings her to see me and the dog. And the first time I saw her, I mean, the usual thing, you know, I like blah, 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 you know, I don't like that food, I don't like that. So anyway, she gives me 4 numbers. And I said, I don't know, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And I said, she's showing me 4 numbers, like 5, 6, 7, 8, or whatever. And the son says, I don't know what that means. I said, neither do I. She's not telling me. And the mother, she's very funny, you know, she does like this. And the son, mother? What does that mean? You know what it was? It was the code for the alarm. Because the lady would not give the code to anybody. And then she turns to her, why did you give the code for my alarm? And the dog, I'm afraid you might fall and nobody can get into the house. I tell you, but like this, there are, so she helped the lady, and the son said, what's the number again? You know, so he wrote it down. And she said, I'm going to change it. And he said, mother, you don't change it. No, she didn't change it. You know, she finally realized that something could happen and nobody could come. By the time the police or the fire people got there, you know, it might be too late. So there are lots of funny stories like that, you know. So you can help a lot of people with things like that. Also, another thing, you know, is that, for example, sometimes I work with horses. You too, I know. You know, they don't know how. People say, am I pushing him or her too hard or whatever? Sometimes they are. Other times they are not. Right now I have to do a reading. I haven't had time for a lady that has a little dog. And she's a purebred. And the purebred she wants to mate the doggy. And there are 2. There is one that the doggy doesn't like. And then there is one that's a bit too big for her to mate her. So she wants to know what to do. And then I have to tell her the dog is not ready to have puppies. She has to wait a little bit, you know, like in 6 months' time. I think she's not quite ready to be a mother. Another thing that I also found out is that sometimes animals like to watch television, you know. And I had for a lady, I've known her for many years, and every time I see her, I hid for her cat. And the first time I had for her, I told her, by the way, when so-and-so, it was an important political figure at the time, is not there anymore. I'm still alive, not dead. You know, every time I said, she doesn't like him, so you better change the channel. And she said, oh my God, that explains it. Because every time the cat, that person comes on TV, the cat says, meow, and runs to the kitchen. You know? So, one of our dogs, Nanuchi, for example, she loved the dog shows, but she only liked to watch the little dogs, not the big ones. When the big ones came out, she didn't care for them. She would leave the room, you know. I also, you know, another thing is that people sometimes want to hang on to the cats, dogs, whatever, and you have to let go. If they are in pain, if it's their time, just let go of them. Am I finished?
You got 2 minutes.
Oh, 2 minutes, sorry. It's good that she keeps an eye on the time because I forgot completely about the time. It's that and directions. That's also another thing, you know, if you have a dog that knows the way, you know, that helps you out. I wish my dog would tell me where to go because the GPS doesn't work very well with me. So you see, what you need to do is to find a good vet and a good animal communicator that's honest and doesn't try to take advantage of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lai. That was awesome.
Thank you. Oh, can I just say something? My booth is 452. I forgot.
452 to go see Lai.
Thank you.
Okay. So, isn't it funny? Aren't animals say the darndest things, don't they?
Oh, yes.
He needs to get his teeth cleaned. They know our deepest secrets. They know the stuff we won't admit to anybody else. They know the stuff we wouldn't even tell our very best friend, or we don't sometimes even want to acknowledge to our own selves. That's part of their role. So I think it's so funny. You have us laughing for a week on that. This week I had 3 people come to my booth who said, I got readings from you last year. They were the best readings. One person said, but she goes, all 3 of them said something to this effect, that they got some information that they just didn't want to know. Like one of them said her sister was really upset and angry about what she heard. But that's what happens. The animals give us information that we don't always want to hear. Their human doesn't always want to hear. So I love that you shared that. It's really, we want to be as open-minded as we can when we're receiving the information. And our job as translators is just to translate what we receive and not be the judger of what that information is. Just deliver it as it comes from the animal to the best of our abilities, because we're just translators. Yeah.
Animal communicators.
You want to say that?
You can say it.
He was just saying sometimes people who have a lot of secrets don't always like animal communicators. It's true, even with the psychics. You know, if you're around like a human who has a lot of secrets and is guarded, in the moment they know that you're an intuitive or a psychic or an empath, immediately it's like the walls go up, because there's so much fear there of what might be revealed that they don't always even want to see or know for themselves, right? All right, awesome. So we're going to go to our next animal communicator on the panel, and this is Laura Stinchfield. She's one of my personal friends. Just love Laura. She is an internationally known pet psychic, writer, and radio host. She's a columnist for the Santa Barbara Independent Blogger for her website, which is on her website, thepetpsychic.com. And she also does Pet Psychic Radio on Blog Talk Radio. That's every Thursday at 12 p.m. Laura, can't wait to hear what you have to share.
Thank you. I loved what everyone said so far. And,
You're agreeing.
I've been thinking a lot about what I'm going to talk about, and I think that what the animals have done for me and what animal communication has done for me is had me grow as a person and watch my clients grow as people too. The animals have, through this work, the animals have taught me patience. They've taught me boundaries. They've taught me to accept everybody where they're at, accept my clients where they're at, both the animals and the people, and to really look at everybody with love. And in our work, it's hard sometimes when we see so much animal suffering to not have judgments. But it's important, what I've seen, what amazes me the most, like a lot of the people say, a lot of animal people, I've heard them say that they don't like people, that they feel more comfortable around animals than they do people. And I have found just the opposite, because I've been able to see people through the animal's eyes, and it really is beautiful the way they see their people and even see people who are creating their suffering. I want to tell some stories because I feel like that really shows sort of where the animals are and how they've taught me to grow and how they've taught some of my clients to grow. One of the stories I want to tell is I was having an interview for a magazine, and the woman, the writer, brought her dog with her. And she wanted me to talk to her dog to get the experience of what it's like to talk to an animal communicator. Well, the dog said to me, I gotta tell my mom that I just don't really like the man that's living with us. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's my fiance. We're getting married. And the dog said, you know, when I'm with my mom and she's writing and she's working out and we're going for walks, my mom has like this bright energy about her. And she's so clear and she's so open. And I just love to see my mom like that. But when he's around, she gets really small. And she doesn't really feel that good about herself. And it's not that he's a mean man, but sometimes he says things that are not that nice to her. And I don't think that it's good for her to be with him. And it was a hard thing for me to say to her, you know, but like Lori said, we're the translator. And so it needs to be said. And so when she heard it, she kind of sat back for a second and she thought about it. And she's like, she looked at her dog and she's like, but I really love him. And the dog stood up and just stared at her. and just stared at her for the longest time. And the woman said, "But don't you love it when he gets down and plays with you and rubs on you?" And the dog said, "Yeah, I love him. He's a good guy, but Mom, you're not happy." And later on, that woman, she wrote me a couple weeks later, and she says, "I'm not getting married." And it's the best decision I'm making. And she was really happy about the decision. And that kind of stuff comes up all the time, where the animals will point out, how the people are feeling. I've got another story to tell, too, about this cat said to me, I was doing a session with a bunch of cats in a home with a woman who was in her late 70s, and her daughter was there as well. And the cat said to me, "I'm really worried about my mom because she has a dark energy around her. There's a dark energy around her chest area. And I'm worried she might die." And the woman said, "I'm a cancer survivor. My cancer's been in remission, and I feel really great. I don't feel like I'm going to pass away." And the cat says, "You know what, Mom? I'm just still really worried, and I want to know, what are you going to do with us if we die? Like, if you die, what are you going to do with the animals?" And so the woman kind of was like, she brushed it off, and she says, "Well, I'm not going to die. We don't really need to think about that." And I said, "You know what? We never know when we're going to die. I mean, you could die in like a car accident or something. And if this is a concern of your pets, maybe you should just sort of address it and say, do you have a plan? If you pass away, what's going to happen to your animals?" I think that we all should do that. And so she looked at her daughter and she said, "Will you take my cats?" And the daughter was like, "No, there's no way. You have too many cats. I'm not going to take them." And she said, and one of the other cat says, "But we'll be great at your house. You can take care of us, and it's okay that you have a dog. We'll be okay." And so they kind of went back and forth, and then the daughter finally said, okay, I'll take your cats. I'll take your cats. And the other cat said, "Don't worry, it would be fine if you took us. It would be fine." So then the cat who brought it up to begin with said to her mom, "Where do you go when you die? Like, where do we go?" And I said to the woman, "Well, I could answer that question quite easily, but do you want to answer it?" And so then the woman thought about it, and she said, I'll answer it. So she said, she sat back and she thought, and she says, "You know what? I would go and see my parents. And when I get there, I'll see my parents, and I'll go dancing, and I'll eat good food, and I'll take a long nap, and I'll just be surrounded in love." And so the daughter, the cat was like, she was like, will you forget about us? Will we be able to sense you when you die? And then I got to tell them that, we were ready? Oh, wow. Sorry. So long story short, that woman had a checkup with her doctor that afternoon, and they got an ultrasound, and they found that the cancer was back. She had lung cancer, and she died within the month. And one of the things that I think is so amazing about that is that I feel like a greater power had put me there so that her and her daughter and the animals could discuss these things before she had to deal with them at the hospital. And that's one of the things that the animals do all the time. They just bring complete wonder to us. So I have a dog. His name is Storm King, and he's an Australian Shepherd, and he's 15 years old. And he has Stormy's Words of Wisdom every week on the radio, and he has a column that he writes. And I wanted to just say what he said when I asked him about animal consciousness and animal communication. He said, "Animal communication helps the planet because once you know animals have thoughts and feelings, then you know yourself better, and we are all kinder to living beings." And I feel like that's very, very true. My cat, Makia, says, "As people grow, the animals and the planets grow. Some believe we are destroying this planet, but I believe that this planet is becoming more spiritual, and all these traumatic events are bringing everyone closer. And I believe that that's what the animals do for us. They bring us closer to one another.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
I always love hearing Laura. She's so insightful. I want to say, we're not always so aware that our animals, we have like certain protocols of how we're supposed to behave and what's appropriate, but our animals don't always do that. They just say things like, I don't really like the man, I like the man we're living with, but I don't think he makes my mommy happy. And it's so funny too, because I recently went to Africa and I was traveling on several safaris, and I, for the first time ever, met hippos, quite close up actually for hippo. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, oh, this is going to be so amazing. This hippo's going to have all this wonderful insight. I'm going to like receive incredible intuitive information. So I just tune in and get quiet, and I hear, get out of here. I mean, I just was so dumbfounded. And then all of a sudden, this hippo just launches out of the water at us and is like... And then, of course, we take off we're on a boat, and the driver of the boat says hippos are the most dangerous animal in Africa. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so we're going to go to the next person. Yeah. So this is the first time I'm getting to know Dr. Rachel Jones. But I'm really excited that she's here, and I already, from the little bit I know about her, I'm so grateful for this incredible holistic vet's participation in the animal services world. Dr. Jones is a 1999 graduate of Tuskegee University. Thank you. Okay, do you want to say that for me? Tuskegee? Okay, I see. I have never heard of that. University Veterinary School, and a practice owner of the Marina Veterinary Center. Her passion is integrating traditional medicine with alternative therapies, rah-rah. And her multimodality approach incorporates nutritional medicine, also rah-rah, homotoxicology, Bach flowers, cold laser therapy, chiropractics, and energy work. So, Dr. Rachel Jones, welcome.
Thank you. I don't know if this is on. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Can you help me with the PowerPoint here? How do I open this up? To make it big?
Here, you have to close. Here. This is you?
This is not my thing.
Whose is that?
That's me.
This is
How
you.
do I open
This is
it
yours,
up?
right?
Yeah.
Now you're going to go to slideshow,
Oh,
ink, and from the beginning. Unless you want to start in the middle.
and how am I going through? Like this? With this?
Oh, the joy of technical stuff.
That one. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah, that's it. Here, test that. Watch. See?
Oh, yay.
Okay, good.
Sorry about that. This is not my forte. Good morning, everybody. And it's a pleasure to be with all of you in this wonderful panel. And my name is Dr. Rachel Jones, and I'm right here at Marina Veterinary Center in the LAX Westchester area, where I have a practice, and that practice is holistic and traditional medicine. And I have a multimodality practice that I run, integrating different types of therapies along with traditional medicine when my clients want it and need it. And I'm not here to poo-poo traditional medicine, because when we end up in the emergency room, it saves your life, huh? And herbs will not stabilize a fracture. And the silicone in my eye is keeping my retina in place till that can be taken care of. So I'm not here to be critical about that, but how you can integrate the two and have good results, okay? And so I'm going to pretty much move at a New York pace, okay, because that's where I'm from. And I got shortened down from 20 minutes to 10 minutes, and we probably could sit here for 10 hours and talk about this, right? Not 10 days. So what I'd like to do is to briefly look at what holistic medicine is or isn't. I want to go through where the future of animal medicine is, and then just conclude with 2 cases if I have time, okay? And so I wanted to call this Who's Healing Who? Because here we are talking about how we as communicators and as veterinarians heal the animals, but this is all in my opinion, is my disclaimer, like Dr. Palmquist. Are they not healing us? Right? And they are teaching us. And so I just kind of want to briefly touch on what holistic medicine is not, because I get a lot of clients in my office that know about holistic and homeopathic and some that don't, and everybody thinks everything's an herb. You want to do nutrition, you want to do homeopathy, well, those are herbs. Well, they're not all herbs, okay? I just want to clarify that. And so what holistic medicine is, to me, is treating everything as a whole, looking at the whole body, incorporating the therapies that are needed to heal that pet, that are going to work with that pet, because there's no cookbook of what's going to work on anybody, even if it's the same disease. There's a different approach. And you always have to look at each animal as an individual case and treat it accordingly and not put them all together, okay? So I did a PowerPoint presentation, and so I only printed 10 because I didn't know how many people will be here. If you want to get a copy, I can, because I'm not really going to get into all the details. And these are not all the holistic modalities. I just wanted to list the ones that I feel comfortable dabbling in. And I wanted everybody to be able to understand the differences, because everybody thinks holistic medicine is homeopathy or holistic medicine is food. Well, it's a combination of things, and it can get very confusing, even to us that understand it. So these are the modalities that I utilize in my practice on a daily basis when I can. So we have nutritional response testing, which is a form of applied kinesiology, which is probably my favorite. And for me, it's the building block, the foundation of getting started, right? Because it's incorporating whole foods along with changing their diet, and that could be 50% of your healing right there. Then there's homotoxicology, which Dr. Palmquist has taught me so much about. Thank you. And he is the go-to guy on that. That I'm still dabbling and learning about. Okay? Homeopathy, which really just is dilute concentrations and gets the body back to being able to heal itself. Touch on VOM, which is veterinary orthopedic manipulation, a form of chiropractics, which I love. That's probably my favorite thing that I've ever learned, next to the NRT. Then the myofascial release, which kind of goes hand in hand with all of my adjustments for the VOM. Herbal therapies, I do a little bit. I'm not a specialist in that for sure. Acupuncture, like Dr. Broadfoot says, I do quacupuncture. I know a few points, open up a book and, do that. And then there's energy medicine, which I personally think is really the future of everything for people and these animals, okay? So really everything is energy medicine, but if we want to go outside of the box, you have the cold laser I utilize, cranial sacral therapy, we have crystals and stone therapy, right? We have water therapy, which I am experiencing a breakthrough in my cataracts just in 2 weeks with this double helix water. Okay, that's crazy. And Bicom therapy, which is frequency medicine, I just bought a very expensive machine, and it's amazing. And one day everybody will be opening up, because I think that's pretty amazing right there. So here are just some more in-depth details about these things. The NRT, which you're basically doing muscle testing and finding out where organs are weak, and then correcting them through nutrition and other supplements that will work. Figuring out what kind of stressors are on the body. There's the homotoxicology again, the homeopathy, the VOM, that resets the nervous system. We have the herbal therapies, the acupuncture. Oh, no. So we'll skip right through here, because this is really what I wanted to get to. So I look at it as 3 tiers, okay? Why do animals get disease? They get disease because there's toxins and stressors in the body. They encounter trauma or thoughts, right? And the thoughts are usually that of the owners, okay? So how do we heal these animals? Well, a very good chiropractic friend of mine Dr. Michael Kubi, he once told me something, and it's changed how I practice. So he once told me that you have to address the nutritional, the structural, and the emotional needs of your patients all at the same time and not individually, so you get complete healing and resolution. Otherwise, you have relapses. They get better, they go back. So what is the future of animal medicine? To me, what do they teach us? They teach us about love, about loss, compassion. They teach responsibility. They communicate with us energetically. And 70 to 80% of these diseases, in my opinion, are emotional. Okay? So I want to move along because there's 2 cases I really want to share, and I think... Oh, okay. Anyway, this is about a client of mine, a staff member whose dog was on her healing her lung problem. After she got done with that treatment for an hour, it was resolved. And then the last thing is one thing, which can I just have time to read this one thing? Because I was hesitant about sharing it because it's very personal. So excuse me if I get choked up when I read it, but it's basically a reading that I received from a client who said, oh, I can get you a free reading if you let her talk to you about it on a talk show. Just send me a picture of your pet and tell me your name, and I'll transfer it to the lady, and she'll give you a reading. So I did that. And we played phone tag. 3 months later, it turned out that the radio talk show was canceled. I don't know who this lady was. I didn't know her, never met her. Come to find out, I get this random email in the mail about the reading she did on my dog from the picture. Okay? So my dog says to me, and this reminds me about your story, okay, it's from my dog Bambi, and she writes me, the session for Bambi was completed several weeks ago. Thought you would like to have the info. If you have any questions, feel free to talk to me. And then she apologized for the talk show not keep going. So here's what Bambi has to say. And when I look at Bambi's picture, the following comes to mind. It's getting harder and harder to see. Some days I feel like I am in a tunnel. I am afraid. What will I do? When I can no longer see. I feel so old now. My spirit still feels like a pup, but my body can't do what I want it to do. My left ear twitches and hurts sometimes. It's a throbbing sensation. Too many irritations have left me not hearing so well either. My owner does not hear the things she should. She tunes out the obvious. Her relationship is very stressful. He wants to control everything. He feels inadequate because my owner is intelligent and self-sufficient. She is a true leader in her field, and he resents that. The 2 kids are stressed too. They pretend that they aren't, but I feel their anxiety. The large elephant sits in the middle of the house. They all walk around it, but no one mentions it. Life does not have to be this way for any of them. I get headaches sometimes. By the time my owner gets home from work, the last thing she wants is to work more. I could really use an adjustment on my spine. I have not had enough exercise the past 3 weeks. I am getting a little plump. The horses take priority over me and the other dog. I don't like the smell of horses and their poop. My nose is extra sensitive. I know my owner would prefer being with the horses rather than face the issues here at home. Something has to change. The strain is affecting all of us. She needs to make a decision and follow through. Please tell her that she is strong and can survive the separation. She must do it for her personal growth and the health of the kids. Thank you. This was in October of 2011, and I am divorced officially 12/4/2013.
Thanks, Dr. Rachel.
And this
Dr. Rachel?
is my baby.
Thanks so much. That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so I love that you said that it's about our thoughts, Dr. Rachel. I love that because it really is so much we don't realize that it's our thoughts. Not to make us wrong or bad, but that's part of how they heal us. They're hearing and receiving our thoughts. And when our thoughts are out of alignment, it shows up in their energy field and their physical form. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is, because we want to do time for Q&A. So we're gonna, I think I'm gonna go right now. I'm gonna take us some time and talk and share, and then we're gonna go to our other 2 animal communicators. We want to make sure we have time. So I'm just watching our minutes here. But if you didn't already hear when my bio was read, my name is Lori Spagna, And I'm an animal communicator as well, and I also work as an energy healer and a light worker and an intuitive, a professional psychic intuitive. And mostly what I do is I teach other light workers who are waking up and tapping into their gifts. So I work with really highly, evolved and experienced people who are really refining their gifts. And I also train other animal communicators, even those animal communicators who have been doing animal communication for many years and want to really strengthen and develop their gifts further and want to really fine tune on what they're already doing. And when I officially started my business, it was called Effel's God. I named it Effel's God because it spells dog's life backwards. Because even back then, when I was a dog trainer, professional dog trainer, I knew that the animals were mirroring their humans. And that they were not only mirroring in terms of showing them and demonstrating behaviors and situations, lifestyles that needed to be adjusted or changed or learned about or somehow evolved out of or grown into or something like that, they were also healing their humans energetically. Because since everything's energy, they're really absorbing that energy for their human to take it away from the human and to help the human to continue to do whatever it is the human does. And they do this quite consciously. Now, one of the things I'm most fond of, aside from demonstrating the scientifically real and valid facts behind why animal communication is real, and although the communication itself is not studied enough, we would love to have animal communication and telepathy studied more so we could get more scientifically sound with it. Because one of the things I was going to say is that veterinarians very often, if they're disregarding the legitimacy of animal communication in their practice, it's like working on a human who speaks another language without a translator. It's completely insane and somewhat barbaric from my point of view, because really you need a translator to help and to facilitate with what's really going on. So in any case, some of the things that we can use this holistic, and I love that you went into all the holistic approach of animal communication. It's not just, or of holistic care for our animals, because it's not just, Western medicine or East-West homeopathy. It's not just nutrition. It's not, everything is energy. It's also the thoughts and the emotions. What's going on in the human's lifestyle? What is the energy? What is the environment? We know from Dr. Bruce Lipton, everything is environmental. Everything, ultimately, is environmental. So the environment of that animal, of all of his thoughts, his emotions, and even if they're not using their brain in the same capacity that we are, all of that is affecting them holistically. So unless we really get to the holistic part of it, all of the aspects, whole health and healing is not possible. And this is one of the things I've been saying for several years, is that the future of veterinary medicine is going to include animal communicators at every veterinary office, either on staff full-time or certainly on a part-time basis. And if that's not happening, I wouldn't even see that vet. If I really wouldn't, unless it's an emergency situation, because they're missing part of the picture. They're just not getting it. Not to disgrace them, because I totally agree. If you're an emergency, Western medicine, we need it. There is a significant part for it to play in our whole health healing. Okay, so, but what I really want to say here is, I forgot to time my own self, but I know when she ended though. So what I really want to say though, is that when we start incorporating animal communication and a holistic approach to working with our animals, not only do we heal our animals, but we do heal ourselves. And that's a huge part of the way that I do my work, is I never just address the animal in an isolated situation. My work is always involved with incorporating what's going on with the human, because here's the thing. There are sacred contracts, and this part we can't necessarily explain scientifically, but there are contracts and there are oaths and there are agreements that are in place about the relationship that the human and the animal are going to go through in their entire lives together, and that relationship, and in those contracts, every piece of information that we need to know about the healing, about the growth, about the evolution, about the expansion, about the learning, about whatever it is that's involved, it's in those contracts that the human and the animal share. And the interesting thing is, they're not just shared on a one-on-one level, personal contracts. They're actually shared also on a group level. So if you look at small groups and organizations, we all have a contract to be here right now. And our animals are probably egging us all on to get together. Right? So that's a group contract, and you can even look just in the United States, animals in the United States. I did this, part of what I did was travel all around the world and work with animals internationally. And if you name the species, I've somehow interacted with him, either as a volunteer or just in some way, shape, or form. But internationally, did I just lose this? Oh, internationally, all the animals have different kinds of behaviors, so and different kinds of lifestyles. So group contracts in the United States, animals are going through a similar kind of contract, whereas maybe in Indonesia or Africa, different countries in Africa, they have different kinds of contracts and agreements. So those are collective contracts, group contracts. And then we also have universal contracts with animals. So one of the greatest examples of that is the whales and the dolphins. Who knows about the whales and the dolphins here? What are they doing? Yes, they're healer, they're the keepers of the water. They're healing the waters for us. And if we look at the elephants, what are the elephants and the rhinos, especially the white rhinos? Does anyone know about them? They're the keepers of the earth. They hold the contracts in their awareness for the earth's ascension. These are based in contracts and agreements, and the wisdom that these animals have. I mean, I'm just barely, not even scratching the surface here. And obviously, I know I have a time also to keep to. So, but we have so much to learn from our animals when we get out of our human, egoic point of view that they are somehow less than us, or that they somehow don't know as much as us, or that we own them even. Because I'm sorry, I don't even like that word owner really, because they are our companions. We are their humans. We are their guardians. But there's no owning. There's no ownership in consciousness. So this consciousness of our animals, I mean, when we start to really tap into their awareness, just let's talk about some of the basic problem solving that we can do. I once worked with these two dogs who the human of the family, the woman, she wanted to have babies and she couldn't have babies. So she adopted these two dogs who became her babies. And for the first 2 years of their lives, they were eliminating inappropriately. So every day for 2 years, she had to diaper these dogs non-stop throughout the day for 2 years. And she tried training and it didn't work. So after 2 years, I did one animal communication session with her and them, and found out that they really were just fulfilling a contract to be her babies and to fill that need. And then I could translate for her that she was ready for them to graduate into kindergarten. We took the diapers off, they immediately eliminated outside. And never ever did she need the diapers again, nor did she, to the best of my knowledge, and this was over, I think 4 years ago now, have they eliminated it inappropriately ever again. So these are the kinds of like basic problem solvings. But if you look at things like, we can address things like, for example, healing. A great example is that one time I was working with an emergency case, a dog and a woman, his guardian. They were hiking in Maui. There was some kind of accident. The leg of the dog had a major sever while they were hiking. The veterinary office that evening, when she brought the dog in for emergency, said, we don't know if this dog's going to live through the night, and we may have to sever the leg. So she called me emergency frantic. We immediately did energy work on this dog. We did animal communication. We did a holistic approach because the animal was definitely trying to get her attention and knew that he had to resort to extreme measures to get her attention about where she was moving in life. Once we could do that, overnight, the vet said, okay, we're no longer worried that this dog is going to die, and we're no longer worried that this dog's leg needs to be amputated. However, we want to keep him here for a week. Well, now it's like, how am I going to afford this? I don't know how I'm going to afford this. So another emergency session, we do work, including a process of manifestation, if you're familiar with that. Overnight, the next morning, the vet says to her, oh my God, we now think that this leg is healing a little too fast. What did you do? We don't know how to explain this. And we're going to give you this service, all of the service to you for free. How does that happen? Because there's a contract involved with that vet, and we fulfilled some of that, what her agreement was with the vet, my role in healing and bringing consciousness and energy into that vet's office. And once that contract was fulfilled, the monetary exchange, it was just another form of energy exchange, which could then be changed. The exchange was completed. The monetary didn't need to be paid. So isn't that amazing? These are things that are possible when we start tapping into this awareness. Okay, I'm going to do one other lifestyle adjustment. I want to tell you another way we can start using this. He's always making fun of me. Can you guys hear him? Okay, that's why I love him.
Interesting.
I love Dr. Palmquist so much. So one time I had this woman who brought to me her fish. Now, I didn't work directly with the fish because, right, we can work with them remotely. Consciousness, they're not necessarily with us. And this fish had been for a month not being able to swim, and eventually by the time she brought him to me, he was just floating on his side on the tank, in the tank. And she loved this fish. You know, our love is immeasurable. It's not restricted to bodies, whether it's animal or human, fish, whale, dolphin. It doesn't matter. Love is love. And she loved this fish so much. And so she brought this fish to me because she had tried everything and she just didn't know what to do. And he was now on his side and unable to swim well. She had been moving and really not out of a home. Her whole lifestyle was off balance. And he needed to know that she was going to stay centered and grounded. And we did some work on this, right? But once that happened, within 24 hours, the fish was fine swimming around. Once she got the message that this fish was trying to give to her, and once she was willing to really receive it and make the commitment that he was asking, which was basically just something for her highest and greatest good anyway, right? Amazing. So, and then one of the other animals I worked with recently about lifestyle was that the human would go off on vacations frequently, sometimes work and sometimes for pleasure. She would leave the animal behind. And every time she would go, the animal would get unwell, and then she'd come back, and then they'd have to go through this cat would have to get reintegrated into the lifestyle and get back into balance with her being home and not know what was going on. Well, anyway, I worked with her to understand some very basics about how she could stay connected to this animal even while she was gone. So that the animal could constantly know that she was always there, always going to return, never left her, totally loved her, and that they were totally connected, even in their absence, her absence. And this completely shifted and changed. And so that when she was, now that when she travels, she's able to go and know that the animal's well and the animal doesn't have to get sick in her absence and then mess up her whole house when she returns and get unhealthy, and have to go through that readjustment. So these are just some of the basic things. And then if you look at species, when we start connecting with species, whole species, we can actually work with them for the healing of the earth, like working with the whales and the dolphins, and working with the elephants to receive the ancient secrets that we're meant to receive, and the white rhinos who actually keep incredible insight and information ready for us now during this ascension time, when it's really time for us to be ready to receive incredible wisdom that was not available to us prior to 2012. We're ready for it, and the animals know it, and they are paving the way for us. So that's my primary message I wanted to share with you, but I definitely want to invite you to my booth 105. And I love, love, love to work with other people who really want to tap into their gifts and learn how to connect with animals. And also, I just want to say, if you're interested in learning, I have Learn Animal Communication as a double CD and a best-selling book if you're interested. Also, all my products are downloadable. Animals in the Afterlife, which talks a lot about the sacred contracts. And I use a theta brainwave approach, which helps us to tap into a brainwave that allows for telepathy. And I also do activations, energy activations for people so that they can open up to their gifts. And I teach also about this manifestation process that I referred to, as well as working with universal laws and sacred contracts and ancient archetypes. And I have workshops actually coming up about those as well if you're interested in learning more. So you can definitely, I will make sure that there's a flyer at the back table where you can pick up more if you want to know. And you can also get on my newsletter list. And if you do, I have a free class on Learn Animal Communication. It's an intro class, MP3, that you can download for free. What it is, why it's real, and how it works. And you can also learn about your own psychic gifts. There's another free MP3 class at the website there. If you go to LoriSpagna.com, that's LoriSpagna.com. All right, you guys, I want to thank you for allowing me to contribute here and for allowing me to be of service. And I'm going to introduce our next speaker because we have some more time. Yay! That was fast. I speak fast. So now we're good with time. We caught up. Okay, so Asia Voight. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll do Anne-Marie Hoff. I made the mistake. I was just seeing that one first. Anne-Marie Hoff is a highly successful intuitive, empath, animal communicator, author, and motivational speaker who works with a wide variety of animals, guides, angels, and people. Anne-Marie Hoff.
Thank you, Lori.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank the energy of the audience because you guys are great. And one of the things I've learned from the animals is they've come to show us that we're not our sorrow, we're not our discouragement, we're our joy. And they can bring that into the present moment. And if they can do it, we can do it too. I mainly work over the phone. 95% of what I do is over the phone. I use the voice of the animal and the vibration. I get pictures, feelings, and words, usually all together. An older animal will have more words. A younger animal has more pictures. I also work with angels and spirit guides and people on the other side. So once in a while, your mother will come through too. I had a woman when I was doing a reading for the Humane Society, this little Jewish woman, and her dog was coming through earthbound, which a lot of pets stay earthbound. That's one of the things that I work with. And so I always have somebody from heaven come and get them and cross them. And she had her husband come and get her dog. And when he came through, he goes, "Let me get this straight. You could talk to anybody in heaven or the afterlife, and you're talking to our dog." And she started backpedaling. She's like, "I didn't know I could talk to you. I didn't know I could talk to you." So it gets to be interesting sometimes. And spirit is spirit. We're all energy, and we're all sentient beings. Animals are more connected with the oneness than we are. Eckhart Tolle says that's one of the purposes they have here, is they hold the space for the oneness. I find cats think totally differently about death than we do. They explain it to me as like walking from the kitchen to the living room. And I've looked for lost pet cats, and they'll be like across town, and they're like, "Really? I'd rather like die and come back than make it all the way an hour trip across town. I don't want to do that." So getting the human thoughts with how cats think sometimes is very interesting. I had a cat once that was peeing on a girlfriend's boyfriend. He started peeing on the boyfriend's clothes, and that didn't help, and so he started peeing on the boyfriend. And he wanted them to break up, and they did. And after that, the cat quit peeing on anything but the litter box. So cats are different in personality than the dogs, is they will get pissed and they will get even. So they have that energy, and it's real different. I have a new book out, Animal Lover, and this has all my stories of when I grew up on the farm and how close I was to dogs and cats and horses and cattle. And then also some of the more amazing cases I've had as an animal communicator. Like I had a wolf spider and tarantulas following me around for a long time because they wanted to be in the book. And I don't like spiders, okay? And this spider got into my house sometimes 16 times in a row in a month. This big spider like the size of my hand. And I was gonna, so I wasn't scared of him. And I kept putting like a bowl over him and a piece of cardboard and setting him outside, and he kept coming back. And finally I told him, I'm like, if you come back again, I'm not afraid of you like I used to be, and I'm gonna give you away as a house pet, so stop this. And he left. But then when I was editing the book finally, he came back, and I was 3 houses away. I saw him walking down, and I'm like, "You're going to my house." And I got there, and he was at the door. I'm also an artist, and I do paintings of your dogs. This is my Got Balls series. It's a fundraiser for spay-neuter. And I think we also have to spay-neuter to get population for pets under control. And with T-shirts on these, it's a fun way to talk about your animals instead of bringing everybody down about pet overpopulation. You're doing it on a fun note, and that's my contribution to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Those are such beautiful photos. Stop by Anne's booth to check out her photos. What's your booth number?
My booth is 455. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, beautiful photos. I'm calling them photos. Artwork. Beautiful artwork. Okay, so now Asia gets to speak. And we are so excited to hear Asia. Asia Voight is an international animal communicator with 17 years of experience. She connects with animals, souls, to resolve behavioral issues. Asia has been featured on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox TV, Coast to Coast, and Hay House. Find her at booth 704. Asia, so happy to have you on the panel. It's yours. Take it away.
So our subject for today is, animals and ascension. And who here really feels that they really connect with that, really wanting to find the spiritual oneness of that? Yeah. Exactly. And 25 years ago, I was in I had a near-death experience after a car accident I was in. And one part of that near-death experience was when the spiritual teachers there on the other side invited me to come back to Earth. And now I was really injured. I only had a 3% chance to live. And I thought, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going back into that hurt body, right? But they said, we're inviting you to come back to change the view and the way that people interact with animals, right? And that will help heal the planet. And so will you return for that? And so I'm here. And so I invite, and I carry that message to you, right? It wasn't just for me. So I invite you here today to find out what is your path for creating the animals and ascension and for all of us to grow and become one together. So I'd like you to just to close your eyes for a minute and see what is your message. So if you had that moment, you're on the other side and they're asking you to come back, what are you going to do? So here you are. Maybe it's a word or a picture or a thought. What's your journey here? How are you supposed to connect with the animals and help them and us ascend together? Yeah. Good, beautiful. So that's what you have to do, is ask. Take a deep breath, close your eyes. You can do that at any moment. And continue to watch. Now, you've started the process, haven't you? You said, yeah, I want to know what that is. And so the angels and the animals and the spirits around you are going to continue to send you messages to help you find out what you can do to connect with the animals. Yeah. And so that's what I do. I help people learn more about what that answer is. And they're animals, cats, dogs, horses, chickens. They're happy to tell you. They're going to let you know. They're going to help guide you. And so by listening to the words that they send you, images, sensations, knowings, you also can find this. Right? You're animal communicators too, not just us here. And so we're really growing together. So I would like to invite you. I have a free gift that you can go to my website, and it is a guided meditation that I call Retrieving Your Soul's Intuition. And it's when I went to the other side, it really amplified my intuition here on the earth. And it's available to you now. You don't have to die, right? You don't have to be in a car accident. You don't have to go through all of that. And you can find that. And this meditation will help you. And so my website is my name, my first and last name, and that's Asia. And that's like the continent, ASIA. And Voight, V as in Victor, OIGHT.com, and then / meditation-offer. Meditation-offer. So I'd love for you to go ahead and get that. I'm also at booth 704. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about how you can continue your path and communicating with your own animals and really bringing in that oneness, that spiritual aspect of it, besides knowing, the contracts, like everyone here has said, why they're going to the bathroom on the floor, and what do they need to eat? What do they want you to eat? Right? Because we do really mirror each other, and I could not imagine not being able to hear my own animals. And even I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and being able to talk to my dogs and cats and horses and tell them, I am coming home, okay, even though it's 10 below there right now. Leaving sunny Wisconsin. So much possible. So thank you for being here and doing your part in finding out what the animals need. Thank you.
Thanks, Asia. Wow, that was really beautiful, really lovely. I could feel, even as you did that, immediately, if you really are tuned in, you could feel the energy come to a nice piece. That was very beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so, okay, so what we're going to do is oh, by the way, I love that you both brought up the angels, because the angels are working with us too. There's non-physical angels that always interact with all of us on all of this communication work that we do. And it's so interesting because I once got visited by this group that called themselves Bob, and I was like, Bob?
And they were like, yeah, you could just call us benevolent beings of light, Bob. But anyway, you know what science calls them? Does anyone know what science calls them? Electromagnetic particles of light with innate intelligence. So science recognizes that they exist too. We call them angels, and they call them electromagnetic particles of light with innate intelligence. Either way, they're real. They exist. So we can tune into them and receive their wisdom and their assistance. Okay, so we're going to do Q&A. So we have a good, this is really great, we have a good about 30 minutes for Q&A. So if you want to ask a question, just come right up. Or don't we have someone with, okay, so who's going to be walking around giving the? Oh, that person just left. All right. You want to do it? Okay, yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that? All right, so the mic holder here, our beloved Dr. Palmquist, is going to, so just raise your hand. And the only thing I ask is, so that we can get as many questions in as we possibly can, one question and not a whole story, a question. And if you have, if it's, a specific person that you really want to ask it to, you can also say that. Or else you can just ask and see, if someone on the panel, and then I'll ask who wants to take it. Okay? Yay.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Since I'm here, let's do this.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is that, I'm very empathic towards all life, and the animal kingdom is just very powerful in my world right now. I go to Facebook every day, and I see not only the beautiful pictures, but the horrible abuse, and I am just in agony. Every day I cry. My poor cat, I wake up in the middle of the night crying because I hear the animals and I feel their suffering and I don't know what to do. I feel like it's overwhelming, and yet I'm very spiritual. I understand all the laws and everything, but it's just, what do these animals really want us to do? Because there's just too much of it.
Yeah. Thank you for your question. Who wants to take that on panel? Who would like it? Go ahead, Ann.
Well, that's one of the things I said when I spoke, is animals actually have come to show us that we're our joy, not our sorrow and agony. And they hold the space for that energy for us to transform it and manifest it differently. But we are really our joy, and they are too. The pain, and I don't mean to discount it, but the pain and suffering is an illusion. And we need to move into the next energy and focus on joy, because then it expands.
Does anyone else want to address that real quick? Laura?
Yeah, I think the power of our thoughts to those animals are very powerful. And so when we see those animals suffering, I feel it's very important to send them love and to imagine what their life can be like if it was better, and send them that image. If we send them sorrow and feel bad for them, they're going to pick that up from us. So these animals, a lot of them that are suffering, they don't know what it looks like to be joyful. They don't know what it looks like to be happy and healthy. So to create that picture in your mind and send that to them is very, very powerful. They will receive it.
I'd like to say something about that too, because what we're learning during Ascension is the universal language of energy, which animals are actually teaching us. And so the energy of pain and suffering, that's a real energy, and you're tapping into that pain and suffering. But when all of us, because we're all animal lovers in here, we want to transform that, one of the best ways we can do is actually become the masters of the universe that we really are becoming right now, which is to override that energy by choosing not to get sucked into it, and instead encapsulate pure love to the best of our abilities, or some kind of higher vibrational energy, own that and project it outwards. Then you don't get sucked into the problem, and you're absolutely, all of us, if we can learn to do that, are not feeding the problem and giving more life to the very problem that we no longer want to experience. We instead are transforming energy by becoming greater than it and shifting it out of the way, transforming it into something that we prefer, a higher vibrational frequency. I hope that's helpful. We can all do that. We can all do that. It's a huge, huge thing we can do. Thank you so much. What a great question.
And we had a session actually last night with the dogs from the Olympics, which was quite interesting.
Wow.
You guys want to hear about that? Yeah. So this is obviously very annoying, and I'm not a big boycott person, but I am boycotting the Olympics and I respect the athletes, and I respect the countries that are there, but I will not watch it on commercial television because they decimated thousands of dogs and called them biological waste by poisoning them to sweep them away from the streets so that people had a pretty picture for the Olympics. And this really devastated me. I mean, it punched a hole through my chest bigger than the planet. And I couldn't do anything about it except announce my boycott for a couple of days. But last night, I asked, and they showed up. And there were confused people, there were confused beings that were poisoned because they ate food. They were hungry, and they ate the food that was offered to them, and they were poisoned, and they died, and they didn't understand what happened or what they had done, right? Because they were just fulfilling their contract by living there and doing what they've always done. So I explained what had happened to them. And I really expected a human response, and that was not what I got. And they said, this was the communication that I ended on last night, which was, tell them we understand, and we hope that they transform, that they change, that they become more aware, and that by our death, they be brought to life and to the sacred nature of life. So that just happened last night.
So beautiful, right? They don't even carry any resentment or anything.
No.
Okay, let's do this question over here, because she had her arm up, and then we'll come into the middle. This woman in the black top.
Is it better for them to stand so everyone can see?
Would you mind standing if you're comfortable standing while you ask your question?
Sure.
Or you can even come to the front if you want.
See you. Yeah.
I was having a conversation with a coworker at work where I mentioned that in heaven I was looking forward to meeting all my ex-pets. And she said, don't you read the Bible? They don't have souls and they're not going to be in heaven. So I wanted to hear from you, this lovely panel, your insight into that. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to answer that. You can tell your co-worker that the original of the Bible was never found. You know, they found parts of it, and then every Christian religion kind of adjusted it to whatever suited them best. And animals have souls like we do. Actually, sometimes they are bigger because they are nicer, like than Hitler soul. I'm sorry, but or Gaddafi or one of those. Sorry, you can tell that. Thank
Okay, anyone else want to address that question? Okay, there's actually a quote in the Bible, and I don't have it memorized at the moment, that says something to the effect that animals actually do have souls. There is a quote in the Bible that says that. I actually have it it's in my book. I don't remember the exact quote. All right, who are we doing next, Dr. How about right here? Yes, awesome.
This is like super quick. You were talking about the contracts that the animals have, Lori. And so, because I've been to Mexico recently, and a lot of the Latin American countries where we have a lot of stray dogs, and then there are all these people trying to be humane, you know, and get all incensed about it, and I sort of just let it be. What kind of contract are you aware of that the dogs in South America and Mexico have? Because they're not treated well necessarily.
Right. Well, one of the easiest things you can really look at when you're asking about contracts is what's going on there. Right? So they have on one hand, they have a contract associated with having those experiences. And on another hand, the contract is always going to be about the lesson that's meant to come out of it. So one of the things that I receive, no one asked me that question before, but what I'm just hearing right now is it has a lot to do with learning responsibility, learning for care and concern of others, and learning about compassion. Those are some of the things involved. I'm sure there's a lot more, right? If we really tuned in, we could get more. But is that helpful? Yeah?
Lori,
does anyone else want to address that?
That fits with what I got down there, too, because I went to the Mayan ruins a couple years ago and was feeding a couple dogs. I mean, they don't even water. And the people around there treat them like it's like a rock or something. And they're there to raise their consciousness for another being. And the consciousness with some of the people down there isn't there yet. And so that's the space they're holding.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, let's go over here. Dr. Palmquist? Oh, you already, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So, and then we'll go to this woman over next. Okay.
I rarely communicate with animals, but I'm a massage therapist, and I had a client come in, and before we started the session, he said, I had something really strange happened to me. He was skin diving, and a whale came really close to him, and it let out a whale sound. His whole body was shaking, and he doesn't understand why that happened. And I said something really strange. I said, I'll tune into that whale and see why he did it. The answer I got was, the whale wanted to heal his hip problem. And then, so I asked the guy, what happened to your hip problem after the whale did the sound? He said, he never put two and two together, but he walked on the beach and it was completely gone. He never came back.
Amazing. Incredible.
I also read that that angels say that whales are from another planet, and one of their purposes is to hold all the planets in our solar system in alignment around the sun. Is that true?
Yes, they're from the planet Sirius. Well, that's certainly the primary planet anyway. Let's put it that way. That, to the best of my awareness, anyone else want to add on that? Contribute to that? No.
That's okay.
Beautiful, thank you. It's so interesting too because one of the things that has been observed with dolphins, when dolphins swim with humans, and in the wild, humans go into their environment and swim with them. Dolphins very often will do healing on the humans that they're interacting with. And what happens with a dolphin who might have interacted with a really either emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, intellectually wounded person, so to speak, which we're never really wounded. We just take on a lot of lies that aren't the truth of us. But this dolphin might take on all this stuff, heal the human, and then what happens is the rest of the pod will circle around the dolphin while the dolphin thrashes about, just releasing all that energy he's just took on, and all the other dolphins are keeping that dolphin safe and protected while he releases that energy and transmutes it as he has healed. The other dolphins have kept him safe. And then after it's done, they all swim off. Now, wouldn't it be beautiful if we could learn that in a way to heal our differences, that one person could just release whatever it is, everybody else could hold them in a space of love, and then we could just let it know that that was just a healing that took place. Like, if we could just keep our ego out of it, right? Okay, let's do the next question. Who was the next person?
That lady.
Hi there. Thank you, panel. It's been such a powerful and beautiful morning, and so full of love and information. I just wanted to say something in response to what Lai just said. You said very kind of briefly, you said, Hitler, bad soul. And of course we need to remember this whole point of Ascension is unity, consciousness and love. And I had a really good lesson this morning. I'm reading David Wilcott's Synchronistic here at the moment, and it's so powerful. And of course the whole thing is forgiveness, forgiveness. We are all one, it's all us. And a chap I know from London suddenly walked up to me at the breakfast table who I'd had a real thing with recently because he was so disrespectful. And I looked him in the eyes and I said, how can I be angry with you? So he apologised, I apologised. And we can't judge anyone. We are all one. There's no bad and no out there. So, and I know you know that, but I just wanted to.
Well, can I answer that? Just because he had a human form, Hitler, doesn't mean that his soul was as big, and he got the power and he killed millions of people. I call that a small soul. And actually, he reincarnated in Switzerland a few years ago, but he died already. Again, so he has a very long past to follow.
Thank you so much. I mean, we all can agree that we have difference of points of view. That's part of what we're here for. And thank you guys both so much for that. All right, you want to share something else on that?
One of the things about this, you have to remember, too, that now is the expression of consciousness. That's different than the now that happened just before and the now that will happen just after. And so one of the things that forgiveness does is it allows us to come to now. If you're angry about what happened in the past, you're still sitting in the now, which doesn't exist anymore. And you're trapped there. So forgiveness is actually the way to free someone.
You forgive.
And truth and love have to be free. And resent being bound by obligation, by physicality, by energy. Truth and love actually have to be free to manifest what they need to manifest that higher perfection. And that's Ascension too. So listen, you're right here, huh?
I'm a speech therapist working with many preschoolers, and I've seen a whole wave of new children coming on the planet that can communicate telepathically. Most of us cannot do that with them, but the animals obviously can. How can I help the children, have the animals help the children help the speech therapists?
Who would like to address that? Anybody?
Well, I can maybe think about it. I actually needed speech therapy when I was a kid because I was talking telepathically and language was very, very hard for me. Can you have animals in your room? Because what I found is that they gave me my voice. And if I had an animal close to me, I was able to speak. I was almost braver to speak more.
Wow. The other thing is, that's awesome. Well, the other thing, too, is, I mean, certainly you can learn animal communication and teach the kids to trust themselves. That's the biggest thing, because we've grown up in a society that teaches us to give our power away and teaches us to, you know, defer to some doctor, teacher, lawyer, government official, some kind of more. And children today, actually, and obviously we don't have time to go into the DNA, but the children today are being born with more active DNA. And they're physically different than the children who were born prior to 2012. So they have that. They already have those gifts, and the only thing we can do is muck it up for them. So if we teach them to trust their knowing and trust their own wisdom, wow, that is a great way to help them. That's beautiful. Thank you for your contribution. Does anyone else want to add to that? Or
I was just going to say, be a witness for the space and the authenticity of it.
We have...
Witness, yeah, just be a witness for them instead of judging it.
10 minutes we have. Okay, so let's see some arms. Let's get for one person over here at least. We'll definitely do her. We'll do you. And we're going to go back there somewhere, you guys.
This is fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Thank you. So my question is this. You're talking about soul contracts with animals. Do we have life agreements with animals that we may reincarnate in other lifetimes with? And I just have this feeling my companion is like I've known him forever. So
Absolutely.
I think probably everybody on the panel will agree with the resounding yes with that one, right?
Yeah. And I've done this 15 years now, probably about twice a month I get an animal that comes back that I've helped cross, that comes back to their owner again, and it's just really beautiful. I think they're here to help us understand death and that love is eternal, and it's, they're coming back.
Yeah, and I've also found, depending on what you're going through in your life, like after my car accident, and I was in so much pain, I didn't want to get out of bed, and the soul of the dog that came back to me at that time was very bossy, pushy. You're going to listen to me, and that's what I needed at that time. And so, yeah, they're checking in, like, where are you at? Okay, let's see. So it's not only the animal souls, then your spirit guides, your angels, all those different levels, and they're deciding what is the best animal for you to have in your life at that time.
Beautiful. The other thing, too, I want to just say about that is reincarnation is real and scientifically valid as well, according to quantum physics. Because we exist in parallel realities, which really are not linear time, actually, but we exist in them, and so do our animals. And by the way, one other thing about contracts. Would everybody in this room agree that this is a piece of paper?
Yeah.
That's a contract. Everything is a contract. Everything's agreements that we make.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fascinating subject area. Okay, so our next question of the last, who was that I said? No, it was someone over... Okay, well... There you go. You've got the mic. Lucky you.
So, first of all, thank you to all of you. And this is a question for Dr. Palmquist and Dr. Jones. I'm wondering when a client comes in with when a guardian comes in with their cat or dog, or I'm not sure if you treat other animals as well, how you deal with the human, like them energetically when you feel like you're picking up on this kind of pathology or something from them, but you're treating their cat or dog. How do you deal with that? Because boundaries. I'm just curious.
That's an interesting question because I recently went through a period where I had a problem with my eye, and I was so mad at the medical profession that I went and took the MCATs, and I was going to go to medical school because I realized that I can't fix the animals because the animals are sick from the people, and I have to be able to fix both legally. So I got over that. But that's a good question. So all we can deal with, and which is the reason why I don't need to go to medical school, because I personally feel that 70 to 80%, if not 90, is emotional. And I don't need a license, and I can't get in trouble for that, because that's all about a lot of energy stuff, and you just have to get them to the right person. So you have to either leave it alone because that person is not ready to hear that. I find that, and I don't know how Dr. Palmquist feels, but we should get an honorary psychology degree, okay? Because if I have a 30-minute appointment that I can be in there for 15, 20 minutes, or then I get behind and everybody's mad, and then I have to, in 2 minutes, who am I dealing with? Because I have traditional things coming in the door that I can't stand to treat that way and give them a steroid shot and stuff it away and then move on, or I can get into a conversation, and then the people that I can help, that's an hour-and-a-half appointment. You know, so it makes it very difficult, and so you just kind of have to take everybody in whatever place they're at and try to make them, each time you see them, a little more conscious about what's going on, and you can go so far with different people.
So people who know me know that I'm Pisces, and I actually don't believe much in space and time, so so for that reason we get like a lot of stars for results on the alternate key, which I well earned for being on time. So first of all, one of the things that happened, I used to have a lot of problems with contracts. Personally, I have a lot of problems with contracts. I gave some of my word. I made an appointment. You know, the word means at a particular point in time, and I'm going to be there, and I'm 15 minutes late. So now I have to vomit out diarrhea because I violated my contract, right? So one day, I actually realized that I'd made higher contracts than that, right? And so I found an intent that resolved most, if not all, of my problems. And the intention to work was something that took me a long time, and people know me and read stuff that I write, you know that it's been a long time coming, but the intent that I work in when I do everything. One intention solves everything. This is the intent. Divine intent manifests.
Beautiful.
Get this in your mind. Divine intent manifests. If you can command physical material, you can ask for help. You are never alone when you stand in a circle at the center of divine intent manifest. And if you say that and the shit hits the fan, that's what's supposed to happen. And you just get out your Kleenex and go, or your clothes.
All right, Dr. Palmquist.
That's the ticket.
We got 3 minutes for the last question. Yeah. The woman in the it looks like you have a little red hair there. Or else it's a cap. And I'm sorry, I can't tell.
Yeah. Come up.
Oh, it's a cap. It's a beautiful, beautiful cap. And a beautiful big heart. She has a beautiful big heart. It's also red. That's awesome.
Okay, so the past year or so has been like a spiritual journey for me, like being up to all these.
Can you hold the microphone a little closer and speak a little louder, please?
Opening up to all these new thoughts and ideas that I didn't have before, and I'm taking different classes, like Reiki classes and healing classes, and as well as trying to get connected with animals. And I find myself always doubting myself. I tell myself to stop because, you know, as you say, thoughts are actions and all that type of stuff. And people always tell me that. It's like I'm like, okay, don't think about that. And then the moment I go to do it, it's like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not good enough to do this. Like, what? So, like, how do you stop that? How do you gain more confidence in yourself? Because it seems no matter what I do, it's just always a lingering thought that I am not good enough to do it.
Okay, who wants to address that? I know that's a really rich, juicy question. We have just about 4 minutes.
Something really short, just doubt yourself and then prove yourself right. I mean, I think that's the important thing for me, is you just got to study your mind and study your body and just study and prove that you were right on. So.
Awesome. Anyone else? Who else?
I can see for you really working on your grounding. And when you really land down and in your body, connect with the earth, in your power, then connect with the animals, and it's going to come for you.
For me, what I do is you can either choose love or fear. That's love is letting go of fear. And I say I choose love, and I keep repeating that as a mantra. We carry who we were in the past and in the future with us. We carry our little kid that was very unsure. And so stand in your power of the present moment and say I choose love and see what appears.
And I say keep practicing and just trust that you're right, and then delete when you anything else. And then as you keep practicing, you'll realize that, you know, 20% you were right, now 50% you were right, and you just have to trust and practice that.
And the universe, whatever you want to call that, will not give you what you can't handle. So if it's there for you, it's there for you to address. It's there for them, and it's there for you.
And it's a contract. Lai, do you want to add to that?
Yes, I would say that take it as a lesson. I get lost all the time, and my husband gets very angry when he gets lost. Me, I say, oh, look, I found a new cafe or a restaurant or whatever, This is cool. So next time I'll go there. Of course, I can never find it again, So I just...
The other thing,
I just learned from it.
I just want to say, because every step is a path, and you know what? I found a guy right here to help me with some Qigong, and you know what? It cost me about $3,000 and a trip to Chicago to read an article to be right back here. So you just have to follow that path and can't be mad about where it goes, because each thing is the next step of where you need to be, right? It's like school.
Okay. We actually we're good on time. I just want to say one other thing, too, is there are 4 words I heard you say when you asked your question. I heard you say doubt. I heard you say not trusting myself. I heard you saying uncertainty. And I heard you saying I question whether I'm good enough. And those are common themes that every human deals with in some area of their lives, and certainly every animal communicator must face. So first of all, for the simple fact that you're facing that is great. Kudos to you, and you're bringing it into your consciousness. The second thing is, those are all programs, and they're lies. They're not even the truth. You were programmed by someone else's thoughts or someone else's beliefs to not trust yourself, to doubt yourself, to think you're not good enough, and to question whether you're even able to do it, and all of those issues, trust, doubt, being not good enough, and I forgot the fourth one, I'm sorry, questioning, uncertain. Those things you can clear from your entire morphogenetic field and your entire when I say morphogenetic field, the field of your energy, which is constantly changing and morphing. So when you're ready to release all those things, it's almost that easy. Because the truth of who you are is you're pure knowing. We all are. Pure knowing and consciousness. And we're just here right now releasing the lies. Releasing the distruths, and those are just some of them. So kudos to you. You're right on the right path. You're absolutely exactly where you're supposed to be when that stuff's coming up. It's just time to look it in the face and go, yeah, that's not really the truth anyway. I know who I am. Awesome. All right, you guys, so we are done. But I want to say one thing. Wait, what we're going to do here just right before is every person on the panel to wrap up is going to have 2 sentences. You've got 2 sentences. Laura, go ahead. Anything you want to, 2 sentences, anything you want to say? Goodbye.
Listen to my radio show on Blog Talk Radio, and my website is thepetpsychic.com, so come join me there. And I don't have a booth, no.
Dr. Palmquist, 2 sentences. Okay, we'll come back to you. Rachel?
I just want to say thank you, and Laura is going to be at my practice on March 1st.
Beautiful. Lai?
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I have a booth for 5-2, and I have a lecture at 1 o'clock on past lives, on century, something or other. They are all together. And carry on the good work, and spread the word that we all can help animals and what we can learn from them. Thank you.
Awesome. And Anne? I'm sorry, coming inward. I start at the end and move in.
Okay. Buy my book, Animal Lover. It's one woman's fantastic journey to uncover the spiritual purpose of pets. My booth is 455, and my website's Rosella's Way. And thank you for giving us your time.
Beautiful. Asia?
Yes, I have a free gift for you, and that's my website. It starts out asiavoight.com/meditation-offer. And if you're not sure what that is, or you can't write it down fast enough, I can get down your name and information and send it to you. I'm also at booth 704. Thank you.
Dr. Palmquist?
Truth comes not where you seek, but where you look. And if you look far away, that's where you'll go. And if you look up close, it's right there.
Beautiful. And I'm Lori Spagna. I want to say thank you. Visit me at booth 105. Definitely learn how to communicate with your animals. It's so rewarding. And go to lorispagna.com for free classes on how you can start doing it right away today. Thanks so much, you guys. Thanks for allowing us to contribute. Great audience. Great questions.